know what Ellie's going to say. You never know. Every fifth Sunday, we are blessed that we have a group come in and perform. And we've had all this, since I've been here, we've seen all different groups. And today, no other day, we have another group, the Christ Crusaders. And so I'm going to invite them to lead us in worship. And I want you to remember, it's not anything but the words. Focus on the word. What are we saying? What are we proclaiming out to God? Amen. Worship with them as they come. Amen.
I pray you guys and worship with us today. We've been working on this for several weeks, put together a set list for what we thought would go well with your group today. Prayed over it, and we pray that it blesses your heart. And I pray that if you hear something you like, jump right in and join in with us. I mean, hey, the more the merrier, right?
Amen.
Little bit of a joke, just in case. We got some earplugs at the back. Man, right here. Lord, it's going to be some bad with earplugs. No, we can bring that as, and it's just a way to say, hey, if you need it, it's there. But I don't think it will. We got to read it. Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. they kind of do their little thing, and it took off, and it's awesome. So y'all worship with it. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Praise God. Yes.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring.
Yes.
Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those
praise Him for that. Yes. Thank you.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, your mercy never fails me.
Yes. That's right.
And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God.
Yes, Lord.
All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me.
Yes.
Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, surrender now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me.
Praise God.
And all my life you have been
Yes, you
faithful.
have. Yes, you have. Yes.
And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able,
Yes.
oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
Yes. He's been so good to us. Oh, Lord.
Praise God.
Breath this morning, when we woke up to see the bright sunshine outside.
That's right.
I mean, we could have woke up to gloom and doom. But He woke us up to the brilliance of His majesty.
Thank God. Praise Him.
Yes. Thank you, Jesus. For anybody here that have any chains that they need to lay down, we've all had chains or have got chains.
Yeah.
But that one awesome God, the only awesome God, there's no other, will never be another
That's right.
but Him, Jesus. He's a chain breaker. Yes. You've been walking the same old road for miles and miles, and you've been hearing the same old voice tell the same old lies. You're trying to feel the same old holes inside. praise the name above all names, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Make this possible. Thank you.
We're just going to add another prop to the stage, so let's see how this goes. Depression is a real problem. Well, before I get started, I want to thank you, Christ Crusaders, for everything. You guys did a fantastic job. Thank you. Believers, some people think that if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be depressed. Well, if you look at statistics, if we look at statistics across the board, Christians suffer from depression. Christians suffer from feeling the blues. Christians suffer from prolonged sadness, hopelessness, stress, just like non-believers. Just because you're a Christian doesn't give you a free pass. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're going to feel down and out. In fact, as a Christian, we're going to feel all those things. But here's the difference. We don't have to live there. We don't have to live in depression. We don't have to live feeling the blues. We don't have to live with spiritual, physical, emotional exhaustion. But yet many times we choose to. See, there's a common thread between all people. All people, someday, somehow, somewhere in their lives will feel the blues. We will have stress. We will have prolonged grief. It's going to happen. You might be feeling those things right now. You might be sitting in the pew saying, John, I'm just emotionally drained. You don't understand the job I have. It's draining. You don't understand my family situation. And that's right, I don't understand those things. But we forgot something. We forgot something. Turn your Bibles to Isaiah chapter 40. Isaiah chapter 40, we're going to look at verses 28 through 31. A very common passage. Isaiah chapter 40, starting verse 28. It's amazing. Sometimes the simple lessons are forgotten. Sometimes we get so caught up in our grief, our sadness, our depression, that we don't know what to do. Statistically, pastors have some of the most depressing job around. In our board meeting for the state convention, we were talking about the statistics of pastoral suicide. And it is amazing that people think, oh, pastors are above this. They're above feeling the blues. They're above depression. No one is above this. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of, oh, I can't believe you're not that spiritual. No. Sometimes we get in a funk. But this is what we forgot. Look what Isaiah chapter 40, starting verse 28 says. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor grows weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, He increases strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength.
Yes.
They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.
Yes.
It starts out with this. Sometimes when we get in that funk, when it's all gray clouds, we've forgotten the lesson. We forgot who God is. It's a simple thing to forget who God is. We all love God. We all know God. But sometimes we forget who He is. So who is God? Verse 28 says this. The everlasting God. He is everlasting. He's eternal. He does not change. The good times you've had in your life, that is the same God you worship in the bad times.
That's right. Amen.
The God that created you carefully, that looked at you and said, here's Katie Morris. I'm going to have curly hair. A lot of curly hair. Super curly hair. I'm going to have the most beautiful eyes. Pop right in that skull. Her nose is going to be this shape. She's going to have a beautiful chin. And she's going to be so tall. And she's going to have these kind of fingers. God carefully, purposely built you.
Amen.
And you've forgotten that sometimes. Because He's the same God that took all that care creating you, is still the same God who you deal with when you're in the fire. He is the everlasting God. He loves you. He cares for you. He desires a relationship with you. He's also the Creator. It says, going on, it says, the Lord, the Creator of the ends of the earth. God isn't just the same today, yesterday, and forever. He's the God that creates.
Amen.
Not only that, it says that He's tireless. He neither faints nor grows weary. He doesn't get tired of hearing from you. You can't say, Lewis, well, you know, God doesn't want to hear from me. He heard from me yesterday. No. He always wants to hear from you. He always wants to talk to you. He always wants to hear what His children have to say. And He's unsearchable. His understanding is unsearchable. Meaning that we'll never understand all there is to know about God. See, we forgot who God is. Sometimes when we get in a funk, it's because our eyes have shifted from who God is to who we are. It's just a simple shift. We've forgotten who God is. We're not looking at God. We're looking at our problems. We're looking at us. We're looking at our failures. We're looking at all the things that make us in a funk. And you know what? Stop. Look at God. Because why? Why should we look at God? We have a forgotten lesson, who God is. But we've forgotten His acts. What God does. When we're funk, why should we remember who God is? Because of what God does. What does God do? Well, verse 29 says this, He gives power to the weak.
Amen. Yes, He does.
He gives power to the weak. A simple thing. But I tell you what, when you're weak and you're trying to move something, there's a pulpit in First Baptist Church, Troy. I'm a big guy. If you didn't know that, well, here's my glasses. I'm a big guy. Their pulpit could fit 3 of John's standing side by side. I mean, you could stretch out in that pulpit. And it is just a wonderful pulpit. I broke my hand moving that pulpit. Probably because I am weak. I don't like admitting that I'm weak. I would love to think that I'm big and strong. I'm just big. The reality is that pulpit was huge. But you know what? When you have 6 guys come alongside you, we lift that pulpit up like it's nothing. Why? Because power was added to the weak.
That's right.
God gives power to the weak.
Yes, He does.
And what does God do? He never tires.
That's right.
He's going to give you power and power and power and power and power because He has more than He ever will need.
That's right.
He is tireless. Not only does He give power to the weak, it goes on to say that to those who have no might, He increases strength. He's not just helping the weak, because when you're weak, it means you have some power. There's not a lot of power. But if you have none at all, if you are at the end and there's nothing left for you to give, He gives you might. There's no limit. There's no, well, you need to get here first before I help you. No. God says, wherever you are, no matter how far away, no matter how down in the dumps, I will meet you there.
Yes.
I will meet you there.
Amen.
A forgotten lesson, who God is. A forgotten act, what God does. And what's the saddest part? We've forgotten the reward. What God blesses us with. It says this, but those, starting in verse 31, it says, but those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be faint. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint. See, in verse 30 it says this, even youths shall stumble and fall, and young men shall utterly fail. See, before we understand the blessings of God, we have to understand it's not an age thing. It's not a strength thing. It's not according to your abilities. No, it's not anything about that. In our abilities to try, we will always fail. But it says, but those who wait upon the Lord, when we have faith, that is the only the only caveat, the only point of our action is having faith. When we have faith, we rise above.
Amen.
He gives us wings as eagles. It says, we shall renew our strength. We will mount up with wings like eagles. I drive Ellie to school every day, and then I pick up Grace every day. And I was driving past these fields. You know what you see constantly? Hawks flying above. And their power, they don't flap their wings, do they? They just sit there. And the air currents move them about. And they're beautiful to watch. You don't see an eagle. No, you don't see that. You see them gracefully flying. We are like that. When we have faith in God, we rise above, not on our strength, but on God's strength.
Yes.
When we have faith in God, we rise above. By faith we rise above. It goes on to say they shall run and not be weary. In faith we continue on. See, you can run a marathon. I can't. I'm not going to run a marathon anytime soon. But you can run 26 miles. People do it all the time. I knew a guy in Bible college. His name was Ted. He was 56 years old. He ran a marathon by himself every Saturday. That was what he did Saturday. He woke up early and ran around Screw Lake, New York. Screw Lake is 26 miles around. And every year they have a Screw Lake Marathon, and he would train for it by running the marathon every Saturday. But I tell you what, after 26 miles, he is sore. And he stands in the ice cold lake. It's in Screw Lake, New York. It's an hour south of Lake Placid. It is icy cold year round. And he'll go stand because his legs are burning hot and he needs to cool down. What God is saying here, they shall run and not be weary, means He will give us the ability to go on. It's like running a marathon and then being able to run another marathon. God does not give you just enough strength. He gives you enough to go further than you could ever go. But then He goes on to say this, that we can walk and not faint. Running is hard. Walking is easy. That's my pace. I like to walk. Swim. When I met Katie, she lived in New York City. In New York City, they walk what we would consider a fast jog. And I'm here, and she's like, "What are you doing? Walk." I'm like, "Why are you running? Why are you going so fast? You need to slow down." She's like, "You're barely moving." Good. The idea is that there are times that we're going to run, and He's going to give us the ability to go on. There's other times that we're going to just walk, and you know what? He's going to give us the ability to go further than possible. See, what He's saying, in faith we rise above. In faith we can continue on. In faith we can go further than thought possible. See, there are times in our lives when we get down and we get stressed, we get the blues, we get in the funk. There are times when life just doesn't seem possible anymore. You know what? We've forgotten who God is. We focus so hard on our own problems that we've forgotten who God is. We've forgotten what He does. What does He do? He gives us the ability to rise up on wings of evil. Wings of an eagle, not wings of evil, wings of an eagle. He gives us the ability through faith to continue on. He gives us the ability through faith to go further than we thought possible. You might be sitting here today and you realize that, you know what? I've lost sight of God. I'm focusing on my problems right now. Or I'm in a period of grief or stress. And it's hard for me. Well, remember who God is. Remember what God does. Put your faith in Him and you will rise above. You will be able to go on and you will go further than you thought possible. By simply putting your faith in God. Today, have you lost sight of that? Have you lost sight of God today? In a minute, I'm going to ask the Christ Crusaders to come back, and they finish their service with the song, Chain Breaker. Today, are you bound by chains of depression, chains of stress, chains of prolonged grief? What chains are holding you down? Stop looking at the chains. Stop looking at your problems. And remember who God is, what He has done, and in faith you will rise above. In faith you will be able to go on. In faith you will go further than possible. If you need to focus back on God, when the Christ Crusaders are singing Chainmaker, come forward and focus on who God is.